Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the experience, decision that shape who we have become. Today's guest is Lolita Guarin, stress management expert, speaker, and six-time Amazon best-selling author. Through her work and and her calm process, she helped people move from burnout to survival mode, into clarity, confidence, and self-trust, turning life experience into meaningful impact. It's really a pleasure and honor having the show, Lolita.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting.
Yeah, thank you. So, Lolita, can you take us back to your early life? How did your upbringing shape your relationship between stress and responsibility?
So, for those who are listening in, they probably can tell that I have a slight accent. So, English is not my native language. I grew up in Lithuania in Europe, and then I moved to US 25 years ago. And I came because I wanted to achieve my American dream because I heard money grows on trees here. So I came to pluck those dollars off the tree. Of course, it's a joke, but I knew
Yeah.
there was a land of opportunity. So I wanted to work hard and achieve things in my life like we all want to do, no matter where we live. And what happened that I worked so much and I stressed and burned out to the point that the stress impacted my body, and I end up in the emergency room. And that's what I find out, and I really need to start taking care of my stress and stop working overtime. And I need to take care of myself, like have enough sleep and proper nutrition and exercise and things like that. And that was the breaking point, really, that I start changing my life.
Wow, amazing. A whole lot of things to unpack there, being an immigrant and a whole lot of things to get to different and having to manage your own stress. Yeah, amazing. So as an immigrant rebuilding life, what pressure did you feel to prove yourself?
Well, I think we all need to prove ourselves no matter where we live. But then when you are an immigrant, I think there's an extra pressure because I wanted to make sure I not only prove my parents and my friends and my family that they left behind, that my trip and my time was worthy, but also I wanted to prove to the company owners that they worked that I was a good employee. And since English was not my native language, I felt like I really needed to be even more than the English speaker
Yeah.
employee. And then on top of it, I wanted to prove it to myself that I can do this. So there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, amazing. So at what point did you realize that what you thought was normal stress was actually something deeper?
So I would pay attention that you know, not enough of sleep and the rush in a hurry. But then I realized that I got more angry than I used to. And then I would just snap at people that I loved. And then I just got so annoyed. And there
Yeah.
was some point that I was like, nothing works. It feels like I'm getting into depression and then just being angry. And that was really a sign for me that I that was the time that I needed to stop. But of course I didn't, because in my childhood, I remember my parents telling me that I should not stop no matter what if I have a goal. And probably many of us can relate to
Hmm.
this, right? Because we always about the pushing and
Yeah.
the hustle society, you need to go no matter what.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I think I'm just trying to kind of figure out, especially when when mom says that don't stop, especially when you have a goal, right? And how did that perspective change for you, being that you're already seeing the stress, you're seeing a whole lot of things coming into being. Um, so you actually experienced serious health crisis at one point. What led up to that particular moment?
Well, when I got that health crisis, then I thought that I need to start taking care of my health. But it's so popular that the doctors just give you a pill and off you go. And I didn't want to take any pills, so I was like, "There's possible for me to take care naturally." And I started doing simple things, and those are not writing diaries and going to yoga class. Okay, this is what everybody thinks that what stress management is, but the true stress management is the changing the mindset of
Mm,
having boundaries of the things that you're not going to do anymore, the projects that you're not going to take anymore, also not dealing with the people that don't respect you, they don't appreciate you. um, and those things we're not being taught how to do that, because when you think about stress management, everybody tells you what I already said, what is not really stress management, because it really going from it, that is generational, I believe, because when you're growing up, the parents teach you many things. But I mean, when I grew up, nobody was telling me how to manage my stress, nor my parents knew how to manage the stress, because I remember them being constantly being stressed out. And that is what they learned when I was a child, that being stressed out is a badge of honor. We all need to look busy, and
Yeah.
like when you meet someone, you ask them a question like, "Hey, how's it going?" What do you hear? Usually it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I have to run my business. I need to take care of my kids. I need to take care of my parents," and all of this stuff going on. You don't hear somebody saying, "Oh my gosh, my life is beautiful. I just came back from vacation and I'm going on another one and I'm just so healthy and everybody's great." We don't hear that, because in our society, the struggle, that is the badge of honor, that we being taught that we need to do that in our lives.
Amazing. I think this is really lovely being that growing up too. I actually more like I have the particular perspective that yes, stress is more like a badge of honor, and the more you get to kind of do more, the more demanding it is, the more job they add to you, the more being that they say, "Oh, she have capacity for more. Let's add more." And I think it's really lovely when you make reference to the fact that have boundaries, and yeah, actually more like have boundaries other than just doing everything, and at the end of the day pouring the frustration on everybody you get to kind of have around you. Yes, have boundaries on things you wouldn't compromise, things you wouldn't go for, and things you wouldn't do. Wow, that's really amazing. So how did rebuilding trust change the way you approach work life and that of our success?
So I realized that life is too short, and it's time to start really living and give myself permission to actually slow down, to give myself permission to say that I don't have to run after every single thing. And I realized that a lot of things that I was stressing about, it was nothing really when you think about it. So if somebody's listening in now and they stress a lot, the one question that you always should ask yourself in any situation: will this matter in 5 years?
Mm,
Because so many times, let's say we're sitting in traffic, or we are annoyed with somebody, somebody didn't do something, or we are not happy with ourselves. And you just ask this question, like, will this matter in 5 years? Because a lot of things that we do and we stress about is really does not matter in the big picture.
mm, with this matter in 5 years. And I think that really calls for deep reflection. So when you actually get to ask yourself this particular question, because sometimes it's easier to be caught in the rat race without even getting to kind of sit down to reflect, what could I do different other than just running around doing the same thing without having a significant result. Yeah, what's with this matter in 5 years? Yeah, this is really amazing. Having more like a resetting question that can change a whole lot of things. Yeah. So at your journey, what looking back at your journey, what has it taught you about stress and self worth?
What it taught me, that we're not being taught enough how to manage stress, and that is generational. Because I learned how to not manage my stress and how to be stressed out from my parents or from my community,
Mm,
from neighbors, because that is what everybody's doing. And
yeah.
then they are doing exactly the same thing because they've been learning from their from their parents. And this struggle is really generational. So when we start paying attention and teaching our kids who are actually learning how to live, that they should take care of themselves a little, slow down. They need to know boundaries. They need to honor their needs and honor other people. Then I think the managing stress will really change at the core.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. This has really been amazing. And yeah, I think it's the fact that you have gone through a whole lot of this, and now you know proper solution owing to your coaching and what you do, and it's really amazing. So let's dive into your work. So how can someone tell the difference between being busy and being in survival mode?
It's all about how they make you feel, because many times when we do something that we love doing it doesn't drain us. It doesn't stress
Mm,
us out. So then you can do it all day long, right? Because you love doing it. But if something you are not, you feeling in your body that there's something is wrong, you're feeling drained, you're feeling annoyed, you're feeling like, oh, it's just like hopeless. This means that there's something that's really not good for you, and you need to change the way you do that thing, or you ask for help. And what will happen if you doing something that you build resentment towards, you will stressing yourself out more. So then you will burn out more, and then you can get sick at the end, because that accumulates. So I think the beautiful balance is, and many can say, well, I wish I could do all day long whatever I want to do, but life is short. I need to go to work. So what I recommend for my clients is you need to have some sort of boundary of, even if you work all day long and you're doing something that you don't want to do, always do something at the end of the day for yourself that you love doing it, even for 5 minutes. Because when you honoring your needs of doing something, then you release that resentment, and then you do not abandon yourself and your needs, and then you show up for yourself, and that helps you to manage stress.
That's really lovely. Yeah, having to kind of have something that you do for yourself, even if it's going to be for a shorter period of meaning, but that happened to be more like a great receptor, being that yes, it keep you energized compared to the whole lot of stress you have gone through the day. Amazing, amazing. So, what is the calm process, and how can someone start applying it in their daily life?
So the calm stands, every letter stands for something. So I'm inviting you now to think about some stressful situation, and it could be a small or big situation, doesn't matter. So the C stands after control. Can we control the situation? Because there are some things that we cannot control. Like, for example, we cannot control the weather, no politics, no economy, no other people. We can try manipulate other people, and we can get angry and annoyed with other people. But when you think about it, we cannot control other people, the same as we don't want to be controlled either. But then if, can be like, wow, but this is then hopeless, because if I cannot control this, then there is no way out. But there is way out. You can control yourself, and you can control your attitude towards situation, and you can control what action steps can you take. So then you go to letter A, and that stands for appreciation and acceptance. The moment that you acknowledge that there is an issue with something, and then you acknowledge that, okay, I can control, I cannot control, you accepting that, because you're really looking at it instead of running away and ignoring it, because nothing's going to change if you continue doing the same thing and ignore
Yeah.
it, for example, right? So then I invite, before we move to letter L and M, is really I invite someone who's want to dig deep into what's happening in that stressful situation, is writing it down or thinking about what action steps that are you actually taking to solve that stressful situation. And many times I've seen over and over, my clients will do the same thing that doesn't work. That's called madness, like when you continuously
Yeah.
doing the same thing but expect different results, it's not going to work. So that is the key of asking yourself, why am I keep on doing this? Because many times somebody told us that we need to do, even though it doesn't work. Many times we do because some authority told us to, like a friend that we think, or some guru or a teacher, or like they say, this is the way you need to do. Although it doesn't work anymore, but we still keep on pushing because we don't want to disrespect that person. And also, we continuously doing the same things that we learn how to do, like we continuously repeating the same pattern that doesn't even work, because out of loyalty to the culture, the loyalty
Yeah.
to the parents, to all that we learn, that we keep on holding that. We need to, L stands for limit. We need to limit that kind of action because it doesn't work, or make it as less as possible. And then M is for multiply. And in any situation, we do something that actually works. And if you cannot find anything that works for that specific for that stressful situation, but then there are plenty of things that you're probably doing that works for you and every day that has nothing to do with that situation, but it helps you with your resilience, it helps you with your confidence, helps you with your stress management in other ways. So the point is to multiply things that can support you. And if
Mm.
that moment you say,
Yeah.
I cannot find anything, good news is that we live in the 21st century, and look at this. I'm in US, you all the way on another side of the world,
Yeah.
sitting in the middle of the night. It's called internet. We always can find people that can help us. And so I recommend everyone who has stressful situation, they don't know how to do things, There's always help available. All we need to do is just have enough courage that we can reach out and we can learn and get out of that situation. It's always, maybe it can take courage to do that, but it's so worth it, because there's nothing worse than letting years pass by and being stressed out and then sick at the end of the day, and then say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda changed that, but now it's too late.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the framework. Because yes, control, ask yourself our limits, and yeah, multiply. Limit those things are actually more like prompt to burnout that actually cause to burnout every now and then. Yeah, look for different ways to get into it and multiply those things that work for you. This is really amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. So lastly, what are some simple way people can begin rebuilding self trust after burnout?
So I think a lot of stress has to do with because we don't trust our own ability
Mm,
to handle things. So we're afraid and stressed out about the future or things that we cannot change. So I always recommend making a list of things that you already accomplished in your life, even small ones, even learning how to drive a car or read or whatever that is, and making a list of those things that proving to you that you are very capable. So when you feel that you don't believe yourself you can do it, you need to read that list and remind yourself that you can. And also another the list that I recommend my clients to do is to remember those times when it was the darkest, when somebody lost a job and they thought that they will never find a job, or they will never find a mate, or they will just be broke or whatever, or sick. But then everything turned out for the better at some point, right? Like we still found a job, we still got better. So when you have that list and you feel hopeless and stressing out, then you read that and you prove it to yourself that you can do it. So the more you prove to yourself that you did it before and you can do it in the
yeah.
future, that's how you build your trust in yourself. You just basically need to remind yourself, because our brain always goes into survival and always expecting the worst, because naturally we want to survive. So we want to always think about the worst thing can happen. But we need to take credit for the things that were already achieved in our lives and
Mm,
remind ourselves that, yes, we can do it. And this time we can make it again.
yeah, amazing, amazing. Check back more like your checklist, get to see which area we succeed. Look back to it and just a reminder that yes, if you did it before, you can do it again. Yeah, it's really amazing. Also, Lolita, from our audience who love to reach out to you, especially for help when it comes to kind of applying this framework, or more like how to reach out for coaching sections or to connect with you. How can they reach out to you, and where's the best platform?
So I have a website. It's called beamazingyou.com. And for those who want to hear me speak about stress management, I have a YouTube channel. Also, it's called the same way, Be Amazing You.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lolita. This has really been amazing. Yeah, true. Limits and multiply. This has really been amazing and a powerful reminder that stress is not just something to push through. It's something to understand. Your journey just shows that transformation begin where we get to stop survivor and start listening. Yeah, rebuilding and learning to trust ourselves again. It's really a pleasure and honor having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so